The moment the words left my lips, I knew there was no taking them back. It was a mistake, just one night. I never meant for it to happen. The air in the room thickened, pressing against my lungs like a suffocating weight. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, his broad shoulders rigid, his knuckles white around the keys he had just pulled from the ignition. The metallic jingle as they slipped from his fingers and hit the hardwood floor was deafening in the silence. His face, God, his face. I had seen that face laugh until tears streamed down his cheeks. I had watched it soften with love as he cradled our newborn nephew for the first time. I had memorized the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled at me across the dinner table, his foot nudging mine beneath it. But now it was like staring at a stranger. His lips parted slightly as if he wanted to speak, but no sound came out. His hazel eyes, usually so warm, so full of life, darkened with something I had never seen directed at me before. Betrayal. Raw, unfiltered, carving into me like a blade. Then came the disgust, twisting his features into something unrecognizable. And beneath it all, the worst of it, heartbreak. A silent, shattered devastation that made my own chest ache as if his pain had become mine. And then, nothing. No shouting, no tears, no slammed doors or broken dishes, just silence. A suffocating, endless silence as he turned on his heel and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the hallway before the guest bedroom door clicked shut behind him. That was 3 months ago. Now I live in a house that feels more like a tomb. Daniel moves through the rooms like a ghost, his presence a cold reminder of what I've destroyed. He doesn't look at me, doesn't speak to me. If our hands brush in the kitchen, he recoils as if my skin is laced with poison. The man who once pulled me into his arms without hesitation now tenses if I step too close, his body language screaming what his voice won't say. Don't touch me, don't come near me, you disgust me. And the worst part is that I deserve it. Because it wasn't just anyone. It was Jason, Daniel's best friend, his brother in every way but blood. The man who had stood beside him at our wedding, clinking his champagne glass with a grin as he toasted to the happiest couple I know. The man who had helped Daniel plan surprise dates for me, who had laughed with us over board games and bad movies, who had been there through every milestone of our marriage. And then, in one weak, selfish moment, I let him ruin it all. It was just one night. One night where the wine was too sweet, the laughter too easy, the lines between friendship and something else blurring under dim lighting and whispered secrets. One night where Jason's hand lingered too long on my waist, where his words curled into my ear like smoke, where I forgot, just for a moment, that I belonged to someone else. One night where I made a choice, and now I'm drowning in the aftermath. I thought I could bury it, that if I never spoke of it, never acknowledged it, the guilt would fade like a stain scrubbed raw. But guilt doesn't work like that. It festers. It bleeds into everything. It was in the way my hand shook when Jason's name flashed on my phone. It was in the way I flinched when Daniel leaned in to kiss me, my body recoiling as if his lips could somehow taste my sin. It was in the way I stopped wearing the perfume I'd had on that night, terrified he would recognize it and know. But he did know. But he did know. Maybe not the details, not at first, but he sensed it. The distance, the hesitation, the way I couldn't meet his eyes for too long without feeling like I was choking on the truth. And then, when I finally cracked under the weight of it and confessed, he didn't even seem surprised, just broken. Now, I lie awake every night, staring at the ceiling of our empty bed, listening to the muffled sound of his breathing through the wall that separates us. And I wonder if this is how it ends. Not with screaming, not with fighting, but with silence. A silence so heavy it crushes me, a silence I earned. The house has never felt so empty. It's not just the absence of sound, it's the absence of him. Daniel used to fill every room with his presence, his warmth, the way his laughter would roll through the walls like sunlight. Now the air is thick with unspoken words, with the weight of everything we're not saying. I used to love the quiet moments between us. The way he'd hum under his breath while making coffee in the mornings, off-key and unself-conscious. The way he'd sigh contentedly when he sank into the couch after a long day, his arm automatically reaching for me. The way he'd whisper, "I love you," against my skin in the dark, so soft I'd feel it more than hear it. Now, the silence is a living thing, suffocating me. I hear him move through the house like a stranger. His footsteps are heavier now, deliberate, as if he's measuring the distance between us with every step. Doors close softly but firmly. The guest bedroom, the bathroom, his study, each one a barrier I'm not allowed to cross. Last night, I couldn't take it anymore. I found him in the living room, bathed in the flickering blue light of the TV, though I knew he wasn't watching it. His eyes were unfocused, his jaw set in that way it does when he's holding something back. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Daniel," I finally whispered, my voice breaking, "please, we have to talk about this." For a second, I thought he hadn't heard me. Then his jaw clenched, his fingers tightening around the remote. "There's nothing to talk about." The finality in his voice made my stomach drop. "I made a mistake." The words tore out of me, raw and desperate. "I'm sorry. Don't I deserve a chance to—" "A chance?" He turned to me then, and the look in his eyes stole the breath from my lungs. There was fury there, yes, white-hot and searing, but beneath it was something worse, something that made my knees weak. Pain. The kind of pain that doesn't fade, the kind that carves itself into your bones and stays there forever. "You had a chance every single day you lied to me," he said, his voice low and trembling. "You had a chance when you let him touch you, when you kissed him, when you came home to me afterward and pretended nothing had changed." His breath hitched just slightly. "You threw it away." I reached for him then, my fingers brushing against his hand. Our hand, the one that had held mine through sickness and health, through joy and grief, through every promise we'd ever made. He recoiled like I was diseased. "Don't." That single word shattered me, because it wasn't just anger in his voice. It was revulsion. The kind of revulsion that makes your skin crawl, that makes you scrub your hands raw under scalding water, that makes you flinch at the memory of a touch you once craved. And the worst part, I understood it, because if our roles were reversed, if he had been the one to betray me with someone I loved, someone I trusted, I would feel the same. I sat there, staring at the space between us, at the inches that might as well have been miles. The distance felt infinite, uncrossable. And then, without another word, he stood and walked away. The sound of the guest bedroom door closing echoed through the house like a gunshot. I didn't follow him. What was left to say? The silence had already said it all.
The air in the office building was too cold, the kind of sterile chill that seeps into your bones and makes you shiver. My heels clicked against the marble floor, each step echoing like a countdown to something I wasn't ready to face. I hadn't planned on coming here, hadn't planned on anything except the desperate, clawing need to see him look at me again, to hear him say my name without that hollow distance in his voice. I just wanted my husband back. And then I saw her. Lydia, Daniel's co-worker. The woman whose name had started appearing more frequently in his clipped one-word answers about his day. The woman whose laugh I'd heard in the background of his phone calls lately, light, easy, familiar. I froze outside his office, my breath catching in my throat. The glass door was slightly ajar, and through the gap I could see them. Her hand was on his arm. Not just a casual brush, not the way colleagues touch without thinking. This was deliberate, lingering. Her fingers curled slightly around his sleeve, her thumb tracing an absent circle against the fabric. And Daniel, my Daniel, wasn't pulling away. He was smiling, small, hesitant, but there. A smile I hadn't seen in months, not since before the confession, not since before I broke us. My stomach twisted violently, bile rising in my throat. Is this how it ends? With him finding comfort in someone else's touch while I drown in the wreckage of my own mistakes? With him learning to smile again because of her, because she hasn't shattered his trust into irreparable pieces? I should have walked in, should have cleared my throat, forced my face into something neutral, and pretended I hadn't just seen the beginning of my worst nightmare. But I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, because the worst part wasn't the jealousy, the sharp, searing hurt of watching someone else touch what was once mine. It was the guilt, the crushing, suffocating knowledge that I had driven him to this. That I had taken the man who once looked at me like I hung the stars and turned him into someone who flinched at my shadow. That I had made our home so unbearable, so poisoned with my betrayal, that he had to find solace somewhere else. With someone else. My phone buzzed in my purse, the sound jarring in the quiet hallway. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Jason. Again. We need to talk. Over and over, the same message, as if there was anything left to say, as if talking could undo what we'd done. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to hear his voice. Didn't want to be reminded of the night that ruined everything. I just wanted my husband. But as I stood there, watching Lydia lean closer to Daniel, watching his shoulders relax in a way they hadn't around me in months, I realized something awful. Maybe he's not mine anymore. And maybe that's exactly what I deserve.
The house was too quiet when he came home. I'd been sitting at the kitchen island for nearly an hour, my fingers tracing the same groove in the marble countertop over and over, my coffee gone cold in front of me. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly, each second stretching into an eternity. I didn't need to look up when the front door opened. I knew the sound of his footsteps, even now, even after months of silence. But something was different tonight. His steps were heavier, deliberate, like he was bracing himself for something. My stomach dropped before he even walked into the room. Daniel stood in the doorway, his tie loosened, his jacket slung over one arm. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his jaw shadowed with stubble he hadn't bothered to shave. But it was his expression that made my breath catch. Not anger, not even disgust, just emptiness. "Daniel," I started, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're home late." He didn't answer, just set his keys on the counter with a quiet clink and stared at them like they held some kind of answer. Then, without looking at me, he said it. "I want a divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow. My knees buckled and I gripped the counter to keep from collapsing. The room spun, the edges of my vision blurring. "No, no, 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 no!" The word tore out of me, raw and broken. "Daniel, please, I'll do anything. Anything. Just don't." "It's done." His voice was hollow, lifeless. Like he'd already mourned us and there was nothing left to say. "You killed us the moment you let him into our bed." I wanted to scream, to fall to my knees and beg, to wrap my arms around his legs and plead with him to give me one more chance, just one, even though I knew I didn't deserve it. But I didn't, because the worst part, I knew he was right. I had killed us. I wanted to scream, to fall to my knees and beg, to wrap my arms around his legs and plead with him to give me one more chance, just one, even though I knew I didn't deserve it. But I didn't, because the worst part, I knew he was right. I had killed us. I had taken the love of my life, the man who had held me through my darkest nights, who had whispered promises against my skin like they were sacred, and I had shattered him. For what? A moment of weakness? A night of selfish pleasure? "Daniel," I choked out, tears streaming down my face. "I love you. I never stopped loving you. It was a mistake." He laughed then, a bitter, broken sound that made my chest ache. A mistake? He finally looked at me and the pain in his eyes was worse than any anger. "A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is burning dinner. You made a choice. You chose him. You chose to betray me in the worst way possible. I regret it. I don't care." The words were sharp, final. "Your regret doesn't fix this. It doesn't undo what you did. It doesn't make me forget the way you lied to me every day after." I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. What could I say? That I was sorry? That I wished I could take it back? He already knew, and it didn't matter. Daniel ran a hand over his face, exhaling shakily. "I can't do this anymore. I can't look at you without seeing him. I can't sleep in this house without remembering what you did in our bed. I'm done." The finality in his voice broke me. There was no negotiation, no second chance, just nothing. He turned to leave and panic seized me. "Wait!" I lurched forward, grabbing his wrist. "Daniel, please!" He yanked his arm away like my touch burned him. "Don't! Just don't!" And then he was gone. The front door closed behind him with a soft click, and I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing into my hands. It was over, really over, and I had no one to blame but myself. The morning after Daniel left, I woke to the sound of rain. Not the gentle patter of a spring shower, but the kind of relentless downpour that pounds against windows like it's trying to break through. The sky was the color of bruised flesh, heavy with clouds that mirrored the weight in my chest. I reached instinctively for Daniel's side of the bed, my fingers curling into cold, untouched sheets. He's really gone. The realization hit me like a fist to the throat. I bolted upright, gasping for air, my heart hammering against my ribs. This wasn't one of his late nights at the office or his weekend trips to clear his head. This was over. I stumbled to the bathroom, catching sight of myself in the mirror. Dark circles shadowed my bloodshot eyes, my lips chapped from crying. The woman staring back at me was a stranger, hollowed out, broken. My phone buzzed on the counter. Jason, again. We need to talk. It's urgent. I threw the phone against the tiled wall, watching it shatter with a satisfaction that lasted all of 2 seconds before the guilt came crashing back. The coffee maker gurgled pathetically when I tried to make a cup, as if even the appliances knew this house wasn't a home anymore. I stared at Daniel's favorite mug, the one with the stupid pun about lawyers that I'd bought him for our anniversary, and shattered it against the sink. Glass rained into the basin like my marriage, like my life. A key turned in the front door. My breath caught. Daniel? But it was my sister Rachel, her face pale beneath her umbrella. "Oh my God," she breathed, taking in the wreckage of me, of the kitchen. "I came as soon as Daniel called." Daniel called her? The thought was a fresh knife between my ribs. He'd reached out to my sister before speaking to me. "He told me everything," Rachel said quietly, setting down a duffel bag. "You're staying with me for a while." "I can't leave." "He's filing papers today." The world tilted. I gripped the counter, my vision swimming. What? Rachel's eyes were pitying. "He went to the courthouse this morning. He said to tell you." She swallowed hard. "He said to tell you he's keeping the house, that you have until Friday to get your things." A sound escaped me, something between a laugh and a sob. 5 years of marriage, and I got 3 days to pack up my life. My phone buzzed again from where it lay broken on the bathroom floor. Rachel went to retrieve it, her brow furrowing at the screen. "Who's Jason?" The name sent ice water through my veins. "No one. Delete it." But she'd already opened the message. Her face went slack with horror. "Oh my God. Him? Daniel's best friend?" The disgust in her voice was a mirror of Daniel's. Even my own sister couldn't look at me the same way. Rachel threw the phone down like it was contaminated. "I can't believe you. I literally cannot believe." "Please," I begged, tears streaming down my face. "I know what I did was unforgivable," she snapped. "Yeah, it was." The doorbell rang. Rachel went to answer it while I slid down the wall, my legs giving out. Voices murmured in the foyer, then footsteps approached. Not Rachel's. Jason. He stood in the kitchen doorway, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his eyes wild. "We have to talk," he said urgently. "Daniel just served me papers." "What?" I whispered. "Not divorce papers," Jason said, running a hand through his hair. "A lawsuit. For alienation of affection. He's suing me for everything, and—" His voice broke. "He sent copies to my wife, to my firm." Rachel made a choked sound behind him. "Good." Jason ignored her, dropping to his knees in front of me. "You have to talk to him. Make him see reason. This will destroy me." I stared at him, at the man who'd helped ruin my life, and felt something inside me harden. "You deserve it," I said quietly. Jason recoiled like I'd struck him. "You were just as much a part of this, and I'm losing everything because of it," I screamed, surging to my feet. "My husband, my home, my life, so don't you dare stand there and act like—" The front door slammed. We both froze. Footsteps echoed down the hall, familiar, measured. Daniel. He appeared in the doorway, his suit immaculate, his expression glacial. For a heartbeat, no one moved, no one breathed. Then Daniel smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Jason," he said pleasantly. "Just the man I wanted to see." Jason went pale. "Daniel, listen." "No, you listen." Daniel's voice dropped to something dangerous. "You have exactly 30 minutes to get to your office. The partners are waiting, with the evidence I provided." Jason's breath came in short gasps. "What evidence?" Daniel reached into his briefcase and threw a stack of photos on the counter. Security footage from the hotel. Times stamped. Undeniable. "My God," Rachel whispered. Daniel's gaze never left Jason's. "I'd hurry if I were you. Your career's on life support as it is." Jason fled without another word, nearly tripping in his haste. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel finally looked at me, and the coldness in his eyes stole my breath. "Pack your things." Daniel, please. Now. Rachel grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the bedroom. As we passed Daniel, he spoke again, so softly I almost missed it. I hope it was worth it. The dam broke. Sobs racked my body as I threw clothes into suitcases, my tears making dark spots on the fabric. Rachel worked silently beside me, her disapproval radiating in every movement. Downstairs, Daniel moved through the house, removing every trace of me from our shared spaces, photos from the walls, my books from the shelves. Each thud, each drawer closing was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. By sunset, I was standing on the porch in the rain, watching movers carry the last of my boxes to Rachel's car. Daniel stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Where will you go?" I whispered. "Not that it's your concern," he said evenly, "but I've already bought a new place." The finality in his voice shattered what was left of my heart. As Rachel's car pulled away, I watched through the rain-streaked window as Daniel closed the door on our life together. And just like that, it was over.